The Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA, requires each state to develop a State Performance Plan, Annual Performance Report, or SPP-APR, that evaluates the state's efforts to implement the requirements and purposes of the IDEA and describes how the state will improve its special education implementation. The SPP APRs include indicators that measure child and family outcomes and other indicators that measure compliance within the requirements of the IDEA. The indicators of Part B of the IDEA fall into three monitoring priority areas: provision of a free and appropriate public education, FAPE, in the least restrictive environment; state exercise of general supervision, including child find, effective monitoring, the use of resolution meetings, mediation, and a system of transition services; disproportionate representation of racial and ethnic groups in special education and related services, to the extent the representation is the result of inappropriate identification. The South Carolina Office of Special Education Services must set targets on the indicators that involve student performance. We have a series of recorded presentations in order to get stakeholder feedback on the proposed targets. Indicator 6 measures the percent of children with IEPs ages 3 through 5 but not yet kindergarten attending a regular early childhood program and receiving the majority of special education and related services in the regular early childhood program, 6A, or a separate special education class, separate school, residential facility, 6B. 5-year-olds in kindergarten are no longer included in this count. In order to understand this indicator, we have to understand how it is measured. The student cohort for Indicator 6 are students with IEPs from the December 1st child count table. Determining educational environment, the SPP splits the students into 2 categories and the report card into 5 categories. The categories are majority of services inside an early childhood program, majority of services outside an early childhood program, separate class or facility, home, and service provider. Here on this slide you can see historically both the target and the actual percentage. We use the historical data to help us make decisions about the new proposed targets. Part A are children with IEPs ages 3 through 5 but not yet kindergarten attending a regular early childhood program and receiving the majority of special education and related services in the regular early childhood program. The solid blue line represents the actual data from previous years, and the dotted blue line shows the trend of the data and projects it out through the new SPP. Part B are children with IEPs ages 3 through 5 but not yet kindergarten receiving the majority of special education and related services in a separate special education class, separate school, or residential facility. The solid blue line represents the actual data from previous years, and the dotted blue line shows the trend of the data and projects it out through the new SPP. On this slide, you can see proposed targets for the new SPP. If you look back at the old data and trends, these targets are in line and are attainable. Targets for A were set by using the current trend. This was a difficult target to propose. There is a lot of research that discusses least restrictive environment and where students need to be, and varies by the individual student needs and the skills they need help with. For target A, we would like to propose staying with the current trend. For targets for B, we're set by using the current trend minus 1/2 a standard deviation. This is the least restrictive environment that includes all of our self-contained students. New to the SPP APR package is Indicator 6C. While we have always collected this data, it is a new requirement that we submit with targets to the federal government. Historically, the number of preschool-aged children receiving special education services at home has been about 1%, with the exception of the 2020 data, which has increased, likely because of the pandemic. The least restrictive environment for preschool-aged children is considered where a child would be if they did not have a disability, and some young children would be at home. Indicator 6C is different than homebound services in older grades. Because this is a new component to the SPP APR reporting, there are no historical targets to report, so we will rely on stakeholder input to set targets for the next 5 years for Indicator 6C. A variety of stakeholder input, including parents, teachers, and district leadership, is needed to set targets for 6C that reflect the needs of South Carolinians to improve Indicator 6C. To increase this target means you think that the Office of Special Education Services should support district leadership in building infrastructure to offer more itinerant special education service delivery to include home as a placement for young children. To decrease means that you believe young children with disabilities, including 3-year-olds, need more access to classroom experiences, and only a few, if any, children should receive special education services at home. There is a lot of research that says students need some time with their same age peers for reasons ranging from access to the grade level standards to learning and practicing social emotional skills from peers without disabilities, which is the reason why we chose this part of Indicator 6 to focus on. With this target, the Office of Special Education Services is proposing that the number of students who receive all of their education in an environment with only other students with disabilities needs to decrease. This is the proposed goal for the Early Childhood Focus Group within the Office of Special Education Services. This goal will focus our work on efforts that build infrastructure, policies, and practices that support an effective early childhood workforce for students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. In order to achieve that goal, the Early Childhood Focus Group created a plan of actions and activities. We plan to create differentiated professional development to include trainings, webinars, and virtual courses. We will continue the collaborative efforts with our technical assistance partners to provide support to our districts and work toward the achievement of our goal. We plan to utilize partners like the South Carolina Partnership for Inclusion, or affectionately known as SCIPI, that will support our districts through technical assistance. Our intention was to provide you with information about the state performance plan and the newly proposed targets for Indicator 6, and how through our established goal and activities, we as the Early Childhood Focus Group at the Office of Special Education Services plan to provide consistent, collaborative, proactive direction and support focused in the areas of early childhood outcomes so that students can meet the profile of the South Carolina graduate with world-class knowledge, world-class skills, and life and career characteristics. We hope this information will enable you to have a richer understanding of our plan. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you.